Am I the asshole for not treating my wife like an equal parent and calling her homophobic? When I was 17, I got my girlfriend pregnant with twin boys. My girlfriend's family said they'd ruin her future, and I wanted to give them up, but my parents told me not to. The first 7 years of my boys' lives, I acted more like a big brother, and when I moved out, I wanted to do it without them. However, my dad said it was my responsibility, so we did move out together. We developed a father-son bond, and we would always watch movies together. I would wrap my arms around them, and they put their heads on my chest, and I often kissed their foreheads. This is important for later. I met my current wife 5 years ago when my kids were 15. Me and my wife married 3 years ago and welcomed our daughter 4 female. She saw me doing this with my kids when we watched movies and never said anything. My boys are 20 in college, but they still like to put their head on my chest while I wrap my arms around them, and they do it every time they visit. My son Liam visited me 2 weeks ago and came out as gay and introduced me to his boyfriend. I love my kids no matter what and just want them to be happy. My wife, however, did seem a little uncomfortable. My son came to visit again on Wednesday, and I was watching Red with my daughter. He was tired and put his head on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around him. I then kissed his forehead and said, "Good to have you back, buddy." We went to sleep, and the next day my wife told me that it made her uncomfortable. She asked me not to kiss my son again and said she doesn't mind me doing it with Lucas, my other son, straight, but she doesn't want me to do it with Liam. I said she has no business being in my relationship with my sons and called her homophobic. She then accused me of not treating her like an equal parent, and I said that's okay because you're not. Am I the asshole?
Storytime about why I will never let my sister pet sit for me ever again. So a little background information, I was 18 and it was the summer before my freshman year in college. And it was towards the end of the summer, so I decided that I wanted to take a vacation with a few of my girlfriends before we all went off to the different colleges that we were going to. And I have a lot of pets. I have 4 hamsters, 2 snakes, a tarantula, 2 birds, and 1 fish. So I asked her if she could watch all of them. She said yeah, so I wrote her out a schedule of when they need to be fed. And I wasn't even going to be gone a week, so it would be pretty easy because I already cleaned all their tanks and everything like that. And I wasn't worried at all because I trusted my sister. She had 2 dogs and a cat, so I thought she was going to be fine. I called her the first 2 days, everything seemed to be going well, and I called her on the 4th day and she didn't answer the phone. So I called my mom, asked her if she could get a hold of her, and my mom said that she spent the 2 days at her and the worst part was, my sister was the only one with a key to my apartment. So my sister calls me the next day and she's like, "Hey, sorry, I was at my boyfriend's house." And I was like, "Who fed the animals?" And she was like, "Well, I just put enough in their cages so that way they would be fine for 3 days. And she was like, "Don't worry, I'll sleep over there tonight to make sure they're okay." So I'm having a fucking panic attack right now. Anyways, so fast forward, I get home early in the morning and my sister's sleeping on the couch, but my sister brought over her animals too. So I wake my sister up and I'm like, "Hey, how are all the animals?" She's like, "Oh, they're fine." And then we walk into the kitchen and the fucking bird cage is open and my birds are missing and her cats are nowhere to be found. So now I'm freaking the fuck out. So at that point, I run to check on all of my other animals. Thankfully, the snakes were fine, so I go to check on my tarantula, and he's missing. So now I grabbed my sister's dogs, locked them in my room, and I went to go check on my hamsters. Yeah, she forgot to feed them the whole week because one of them ate the other one. So at this point, I'm having a mental fucking breakdown, and I'm moving all the furniture in the living room and everything like that. And we lift up the couch and we see her cat bolt out from under the couch. After that, I look under the couch and my bird is literally torn into pieces under the fucking couch. A few days later, she texted me and she was like, "Hey, I feel so bad. Let me buy you a new bird and a new tarantula." And to this day, 2 years later, I still don't know what happened to them.
Storytime on how I caught both of my best friends cheating on me with my boyfriend. Yes, both of them. So at the time I was entering college and one of my best friends went to the same school as me. My other best friend went to the same school as my boyfriend. And our schools were close. We were only 10 minutes away from each other. Homecoming is when things started to get fishy. I asked my boyfriend if he wanted to come out to our homecoming games. And he said that he was busy. Then of course I asked my best friend, but she said she had cheerleading practices because she was trying to become a cheerleader. I don't know, they just always seem busy doing something around the same time. So then the holiday comes up and I visit my boyfriend's family for Christmas. I don't know, something in me just told me to look at his phone. And he was talking to my best friend, the one he went to school with. And the conversation was just too flirty. So I talked to my other best friend about it that I went to the same school with. And she was like, oh, I always knew something was weird about them too. I, of course, confronted my boyfriend about it, and he said nothing was going on. So I decided to play reverse psychology on my best friend. Come back for part 2. Part 2 on how I caught my boyfriend cheating on me with 2 of my best friends. Like I said, I confronted my boyfriend about it, and he pretended there was nothing going wrong. So I went to my best friend about it, and I kind of did like a reverse psychology thing on her. I told her that my boyfriend told me everything that was going on. And I was like, did y'all even use protection? Not really knowing what's really going on. And she was like, I'm sorry, it was only a one-time thing. And that she was just drunk one night. And I was like, sis, you practically told on yourself because I was joking. And then she kind of like snitched on my other best friend. She was like, I wasn't the only one, you know. And of course I was like, what you mean? And she said a couple months back when we were in high school that my other best friend had slept with him also. The whole situation was just messy. I ended up cutting off my whole circle. And later on that freshman year, my ex-boyfriend started dating my ex-best friend.
Am I the asshole for pressing charges against my girlfriend's friend for stealing my doll? I, 26 male, have been with my girlfriend, 26 female, for almost 4 years. Last year, I gave her a key to my house. She spends a few days there, but we don't live together full time. A few days ago, I had to make a quick trip for work, and she asked if she could invite a few friends over to the house. She wanted a girls' night, and I accepted. The first thing I noticed was the rag doll missing from my wall when I returned, and my first instinct was to call my girlfriend. I asked if she put it somewhere else, and she denied and said the doll was there, but it wasn't. I checked the GPS of the doll, and yes, it has a GPS. The GPS marked the house of one of her friends. Let's call her Jess. I tried to be nice and told my girlfriend to tell her to bring it back before 5 p.m. and I'll pretend this never happened, or I'll involve the police. She tried to fight it, but I told her about the GPS, and my girlfriend called me back saying Jess denied having the doll. We argued, and at 5 p.m. I went to the police, went to her house and got the doll back, then pressed charges. My girlfriend and I had a bigger argument, but they, including her, knew the doll was made by my father.
Am I wrong for kicking my husband out of the delivery room after he started crying? My husband, Kevin, male 31, and I, female 27, welcomed our first baby a week ago. Kevin is the type of person that gets stressed out easily and reacts to events negatively. We've had conversation about his ability to handle being in the delivery room. I said if he couldn't be there, it was fine, seeing how he reacts under pressure and can have mom there instead. He said he could 100% handle anything and promised to be supportive and positive. I went into labor alone. He met me at the hospital, and when he entered the room, he looked so stressed out and overwhelmed already. He started moving around periodically, completely ignoring me. He got more visibly stressed when my pain got intense. He took my hand when I started having contractions and kept clutching it, almost stopping blood circulation. My entire arm went numb. I felt strained, and although I was in intense pain, I saw his face. It was so red, and there was a visible vein in his forehead that looked like it was ready to blow up. It was not helpful at all, in fact. It was frustrating and affected my emotions negatively. But still, I was willing to suck it up. Then suddenly, he started crying. Like literally sobbing really loud. I found myself screaming, telling him to stop several times, and as a result, he literally yelled back in my ear. The nurse got involved. I told her to get him out of here. He tried to argue with me, but wasn't given a chance and was pressured to leave the room. I didn't see him afterwards after our daughter was born, and while I was resting, he didn't show up. His mom kept calling to see where he was. She stayed with me, and I haven't seen him till the day I was discharged. We had a big fight at home. He kept lashing out when I said how bad it was for him to ghost me when I needed him the most. He said I shouldn't expect him to stick around after cruelly and selfishly kicking him out of the room and robbed him an opportunity to see our daughter's first breath. I explained he was causing me to panic with how he was crying, but he accused me of making up excuses after I was purely at fault for kicking him out and getting the staff to gang up on him no matter how hard I try to spin it. He said as a dad, he should have the liberty to be in the room no matter how he behaves and whether I like it or not. I got tired of arguing and I told him to stop, and he said he will, but he will never forget what I've cost him that day, and walked out. I was so mad and took time to cool off. Then when I unpacked my bag, I found a small box that contained a necklace with our daughter's name. I felt awful knowing Kevin left it for me to wear at the hospital, but the argument happened and he spent the entire time in the car in the hospital's parking lot.